but we've been working with Facebook for quite many years now, and they've supported us in their advertising and stuff like that. And we got invited to participate in a workshop with them actually in Manhattan last year. And obviously I'm the only Take 3 member that was in the US, so I got to go. And yeah, it was pretty awesome. It's actually like their office is right near the store I work at, right near Union Square, and it's a pretty cool office. But they brought together Coca-Cola, Unilever, and a host of other heavy polluting companies. And these like sustainability leads of these companies. And it was a 2-day workshop where they all sat down and got educated about the problem and then created ideas to solve it with the funding that they had, these millions of dollars. And that's where change comes from, instead of just like boycotting them, which also is an effective strategy. But
well, it's interesting is today, in particularly right now, it feels like corporations are becoming very aware of everything, and they're taking stands, in a very positive way. It's, some people look at it as co-opting, but hey, in some ways it's kind of nice that they are supporting it, and it's not, and there is momentum to a lot of the movements.
What does co-opting mean? Can you
co-opting? It's like taking it over almost, they're like making it part of their own branding and marketing, and sometimes, and then it, it's stealing, it's basically stealing their message and movement. Yeah. And that, and that's a very legitimate concern, and it has to be done like, there's a lot of companies that make these commercials and you're just like, what the fuck? Like I always think of like the Pepsi commercial with Kylie Jenner, and everyone's protesting, and she just walks out in front of that and like goes up to a cop in the middle of a riot and gives him a Pepsi, and like that's supposed to make things better, and just that shit's ridiculous. But it has to be genuine. If you're going to do it, make a stance, you have to do it all the way through. You can't just half-ass it, and you can't open yourself up to criticism like that then. That's the thing. I think there's a lot of companies that try to do it, or do it half-assed, or do it in just because it's a good marketing ploy. And I think a lot of younger people particularly are really wanting companies to stand for something, really like stake their flag in the ground more so than just co-opt a message.
Now more than ever, and I feel like we're almost at a segue I want to go down with the sustainability stuff. But you mentioned, and now that I understand what co-opting means, with the whole like awakening around racism, everyone's doing their part, or choosing what they want to do. And I've been posting on social and having conversations with friends, but I've been reading, and just almost finished this book called The New Jim Crow, and it talks about mass incarceration. And I just always figured it was like, and I'm Australian, I'm not Republican or Democrat, I'm actually not like political in Australia either as well. But I always just figured it was, the Republicans were the ones that pushed mass incarceration, but it was actually the Clinton administration that co-opted that and kind of pulled that off them. And I just found that baffling. And I guess that happens a lot in America, the co-opting of certain things to gain political sway.
Well, it was, and look, I'm not like justifying it, but, the context of the time was, New York City was in pretty bad shape. Lots of crime had been pretty high all over the country. And you had a lot of scared white privileged people, white people, and you also had a lot of people in the communities who were frustrated with it. And you had, and a lot of them were asking for more police and more protection also. But so I think like the intention was not to just be abusive, but I think there was the intention to try to do good. And I think they fucked up because they didn't do enough studies, and they also were playing politics with each other. And I think the politics definitely was, if the Democrats can take the justice, crime and justice, mantle, that would get a lot more Democrat votes, and that would win more elections. So there's obviously the politics played a heavy thing on that, particularly after Reagan in the 80s. He amped up the war on drugs and and all that stuff, which contributes obviously, the FBI, CIA releasing crack into the streets, and all these other, there's a whole well we can go down. But what I'm trying to say is I'm trying to context it in the sense that, like, the Democrats did have that, and it was a political move, and the U.S. was a far more conservative country too, and was not, and they looked at crime and more police rather than, as a reactionary measure as opposed to a proactive measure of like, oh, maybe if we gave money to the people in the communities and helped the communities instead of giving all the money to police, we could fix this problem. But
yeah, it's wild.
Sorry,
I'm all
big
for,
segue there.
I mean, violent crime's one thing, but the war on drugs is like a whole other thing. This book's amazing. I'll have to share it with you after I'm finished. I think I'll probably finish it tomorrow. But when they kicked off the war on drugs, the national consensus of like drugs being a problem in the States was, I think, close to 2%.
Oh yeah,
so it wasn't even a problem. And then within a decade, it was like close to 90%. So
well, Nixon scared the crap out of people and ran all these crazy ads. If you look at some of the ads from that time period, where he kicked off the war on drugs, and after, it's just fucking crazy stuff.
And back to Australia being, I mean, we're a colonialised state, we're like a little Britain, right? We're part of the Commonwealth, but I would say from like maybe World War II or the Vietnam, especially after the Vietnam War, we more became a baby America and followed in the footsteps. So we absorbed the war on drugs. It was growing up, the same stigmas around it, and it took me many years to kind of realize I'm not a bad person for experimenting with things. It's just like a social stigma. So yeah, it was pretty exciting to come to the States where cannabis is legalized.
That's hilarious. It's awesome.
Yeah, it's still a massive social stigma in Australia, but we're getting there, I think.
I try to normalize it a lot in conversation. Like, I really try to be very open about it more.
Yeah, I do too. I still have my own personal stigmas that I'm trying to like unpack around it just growing up in Australia, but yeah, it's interesting. But back to the co-opting with the corporate sustainability stuff. There's like, it's greenwashing is the term where companies will jump on and like try and create a product, and that's actually what kind of stifled the sustainability revolution. So if you know like your history of humanity, you've got like the different revolutions, like there was agriculture and then industrialization, and we're kind of like on the back end of the technological revolution, and the next revolution really is sustainability. It's kind of already in the works, and I think the next couple of decades we'll see it really pick up because we don't have any option but to anymore. But back I can't really remember what decade, but there was a real push for sustainable products, and they weren't high quality. They were marketed heavily, but the quality of the products weren't there. So people were buying this product that's like green, but it's a shitty product. And so from that point on, it just had a bit of a stigma around, green products they don't live up to the quality of it. And you see that in surfing with, eco-friendly boards. There's been a stigma around, they don't perform well as polyester boards. But now I think it's coming full circle where greener products are obviously more sustainable, more eco-friendly, but the performance is also there as well. And it's also profitable because the public wants to see this. And like you said before, younger generations want to kind of almost feel connected to brands in the way that maybe older generations wanted to feel connected to nationalism, in the same way that communities, dating way back, like Homo sapiens, were like connected with their communities. And it's just really interesting to see that shift. And there's all of this data out now showing how like modern generations really are looking to corporations for more than just products. It's almost like a sense of identity, and sustainability plays a big role in that.
Well, yeah. Well, I think as a kid, I remember, you'd identify with a certain brand, surf brand or something because your favorite pro surfer was on that. And now I feel like with a lot of the kids, it's you identify with the brand because of what they stand for and what they mean. Before it was like the surfer, the athlete, the star, that whole celebrity endorsement, that was big, obviously from like, really heightened in the 80s, 90s and early 2000s, and I think everything had like celebrity endorsements, or that was the big deal. And now I feel like it's less about the celebrity endorsement. I mean, that's still there, but it's the message and what they mean. I think that's going to become more prominent. And it's funny when I look at a lot of the surf industry and I start to look and I'm like, well, how many of them really stand for anything? How many of them are even really saying anything or giving some sort of commentary on what's happening today?
Not a lot. And it's like, I'm not like mad at it. It's like, if you look at around all sports, I mean, there is a bunch of
I'm mad
stuff
for the missed opportunity. I'm mad because it's missed. It would have, we talk about like, particularly like the surf industry is in the gutter, in many ways. And I'm like, here's a great opportunity to do good, put something behind it. And it's like a missed opportunity, I feel like, for the whole industry there.
Yeah. I have a mainly love, but love-hate relationship with the WSL. I mean, competitive surfing is competitive surfing. I watch every single event, almost every heat. I freaking love it. The performance levels are through this roof, not to mention watching epic surfers on epic waves. And then there's the whole kind of like corporate side of it, which is problematic. But to all credit to the WSL, the work they're doing with the WSL Pure
it's amazing.
It's amazing. And I would say the WSL is probably the most innovative sporting association that I know of in the world in terms of sustainability. It's the first organization I think in the world to announce and stick by equal pay for genders. It was 2019 that they made equal pay for women. What other sports doing that now?
Not soccer.
Not soccer.
Not soccer.
not NBA. I remember growing up as a kid, and the only female NBA I'd watch is the lingerie league. Did you ever watch that?
No, I did not. I'm not gonna. No.
I mean, the quality of the football was good. There was big knocks and like athleticism, but they were playing in the lingerie. So
that was, I believe, Ed McMahon from the owner of WWE, and I believe Donald Trump was part of that as well.
Oh, of course he was. I'm not surprised.
Yeah, so
I actually was a massive WWF and then WWE fan growing up.
As a grum, come on, Hulkamania, buddy.
Yeah, me and my buddies used to like rent on pay-per-view, like WrestleMania and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Oh man, what you gonna do when Hulkamania runs wild on you? or Macho Man? Ooh, yeah.
I was a Hardy boy, the Jeff Hardy and Matt Hardy.
I think that was just past when I was a little bit more older school. I think I got more of the 80s part of the WWE.
A little off tangent, but did you watch The Last Dance with Michael Jordan?
Oh yeah, great.
And Dennis Rodman joins the the wrestling for a little bit.
But everyone at some point joined the WWE. I mean, shit, Donald Trump was in the WWE. Come on. But I mean, it's, getting back to that corporate sustainability. And now you were very busy during COVID.
Yeah. So
can we talk a little bit about this? Like, I find it really interesting. Give this whole story. I'm not going to ruin it for our listeners. I don't want to spoil it, spoiler alert,
Yeah, for sure. Well, like I said before, I did a bachelor's degree in finance and economics, and I love it. Like, economics is just a social science.
Except for the math. The math side sucks, but...
You know what? Once you, like, the satisfaction you get from cracking a mathematical equation is so satisfying, especially if you're not good at it. So I didn't mind it, but there was a few subjects on, like, financial derivatives and stuff that took me, like, 2 or 3 cracks to pass.
Yeah.
But when I was doing all that, the capstone, like the kind of the last subject of the course was all about globalization. I'm just so intrigued by it. And so ever since then, I've kind of been thinking about corporate sustainability even before it was like, I understood what it was. And I just, moving to the States meant sacrificing a few things, including like maybe getting a high paid job in Australia or studying more. So I just was at a point where I was really craving more education, and I work for Lululemon, so it's an activewear brand. I love working for the company. They've I've grown from a boy to a man working for them, and I work in the stores. But I just know that sustainability